ticking. There it is.
Oh, finally. Oh, it took forever.
We're live.
I hit the button like a week ago. Yes, here we are. Welcome to Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. It is Saturday, February 27th, 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and a very, very special edition. It's the Happy Birthday Raffi edition.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. No, please. Hold your applause.
This is Raffi's first quarantine birthday.
Yeah, because last year I was able to celebrate with some friends of mine because we scheduled everything before stuff got crazy. And so we had some fun. And then I put them on a plane and sent them home. And within days, we were pretty much locked down.
Yeah, we're going to be hitting, some people are going to start having their second quarantine birthday.
Wow.
That's just amazing. And with that, we should start the show. And then I've got an exciting thing I'm gonna start the show off with, which will be very cool. So let's do the opening.
Start your engines. Join the conversation. Ask the experts. Raffi Manassian and Dan Rosenberg. It's Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. Happy birthday, Raffi.
Like nice intro, Dan.
Yes, that is the voiceover guy. So what we're going to do today that we have never done ever before. Well, first off, we've got already in the comments, Jake saying happy birthday, Raffi.
Thank you, Jake.
Ray Pepper, Raffi, you demand.
Thank you, Ray.
My mom. Happy birthday, Raffi. Happy half birthday to me. Yes, tomorrow is my half birthday. What are the odds that you and I share a half birthday?
Well, great. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for the birthday wishes. And
but here's what we're going to do that we've never done on this show before, but we're going to do today just for the birthday. If anybody wants to join in live on the show, all you have to do is go to that link, streamyard.com/JN29Q8NAKB. Oh, look, Richard Barron popped in to say, happy birthday, Mr. Raffi.
Thank you, Richard.
But if you do want to come on the show live and say hello to Raffi, you can do that at any time during the show by following that link that's in the comment section. If you're listening to the podcast, sorry you missed this, but we have yet to do a live call-in or a live guest, and we've only gone through the comments. Oh, look, my co-host of my other shows. Happy birthday to Raffi.
Hey there, Eric. Nice to see. Well, thank you. Thanks very much, everyone.
You're getting birthday wishes. And so for today's main topic of the show is Raffi. I thought I would tell my story of how I met Raffi.
All right.
Which might be a good story, but I'm not sure. So we started a Cars and Coffee group back, I think 2011.
That sounds about right.
Or 12, somewhere in that range. And we had several people show up. And but wait, we have our first guest. Hold on a second.
Oh,
we bring somebody in to say happy birthday to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
Feliz Navidad.
Thank you, sir.
And but wait,
you have to turn your Facebook off, Bruce. That way you can
bring somebody in to say happy birthday to you, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Bruce.
So we're getting a double time.
Feliz Navidad.
And we're getting triple time.
And
he hasn't heard me say it yet.
We'll have to figure out how to do this.
Well, the easy way is to just mute them. But he said happy birthday. Charles Hall says happy birthday also.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
But Bruce, if you can mute or turn off your Facebook feed or whatever you're watching the show on for a moment, we'll get rid of the feedback.
Well, the easy way is to just mute them. But he said happy birthday.
Well, there we go. We're gonna go with that. If anybody else wants to join in, all you have to do is click on that link, streamyard.com. I'm not going to read it because it makes no sense to actually read it. But it is your birthday. A lot of the guys popping in, by the way, are also members of our Cars and Coffee group, which is how I met Raffi. So there's a little cafe here on Bainbridge Island called Blackbird Bakery. And Richard Malzahn and I started this little Cars and Coffee group. And the goal was to not tell anybody. We're not telling anybody. we just want to park our cars out front and have people start to show up. And slowly people started showing up. And Raffi came in one morning and was just a plethora of knowledge.
Well, now wait a minute, because the reason I came in is because I saw two cars parked out in front, and they were interesting cars. And I thought, well, I wonder what's going on here. Maybe there's a little car show. And I had my, at that time, a silver Lancia Zagato bodied Fulvia. And
Fulvia.
So I parked right next to the two cars and walked in, and there you guys were sitting at the table. I said, "Do you guys own the cars out there?" And said, yeah, we're having an impromptu little cars and coffee gathering. And then we sat down, and that's how it started. And I think this was maybe only a couple weeks after you'd started.
Well, I think you were in San Francisco when we started it, because we started in September.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was, is you popped in either when you're up here visiting or right after you came back, because Raffi teaches in San Francisco in the falls. In the fall. Falls? Yes. But what was great was immediately we realized this guy knows a lot about cars. And then I remember the first car show that we had at the church, you brought your yellow Ghia.
Yeah, the 450 SS.
The 450 SS. And I, to be stupid, I did not know what that was. I'm like, oh, it's a Buick Skylark. It was not a Buick Skylark. And then you flipped that car and you did pretty well on it.
I did pretty well. And now did we want to check in with Bruce as well? Because if his sound is off.
You flipped that car. Like, oh, pretty well.
We still have the feedback coming through.
I wonder, we'll have to figure out a way to get rid of that, because
Bruce, all you have to do is turn off Facebook or whatever you're watching us on, and then that will automatically get rid of the feedback, because we're hearing the show, because the show's on a slight delay.
And Bruce is such a dedicated listener that he refuses to turn it off so that he doesn't, miss anything.
Turn off Facebook or whatever you're watching us on.
Okay.
And
there we go. He heard it there. He heard it on the delay.
Because the show's on a slight delay.
There we go. Now he turns it off.
All right, I'm going to start over.
He doesn't, miss anything.
All right. So if he turned the Facebook off.
There we go.
All right.
He heard it on the delay. Because the show's
still hear it.
There we go.
I'm still getting it. I don't know if Facebook is still on, or YouTube or Twitter, however he's listening to it. Well, but if you would like to join us, there's a link in all the comment sections, streamyard.com/JN29, blah, 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 blah. Now, it might not have posted on my page, so I better put it on there if anybody wants to join us that way too. But that way you can join us. You can say happy birthday to Raffi. You can also just put it in the comments.
And I should jump in to say that at some point on the show, we could do an entire feature series of friends we know with interesting cars. And Bruce would certainly be one of those guys, because he has some very interesting cars. And, our local community has quite a few interesting cars, but we've got listeners from all over the United States with some really, really interesting cars. Everything from muscle cars, European sports cars, all kinds of different things. And, that's what makes this kind of show so interesting, or any Cars and Coffee show so interesting, is because you get to see a wide range of cars, everything from a restored VW Beetle to a Mercedes Gullwing.
Yes. And Bruce, the first time I saw Bruce, he came in with a really cool Jeep.
Yeah.
That's an old timey Jeep.
Yeah.
And as Bob mentions, motorcycles too. That's true. That's right. It's Cars and Coffee, yet Richard Malzahn does not drink coffee. So the first time we sat down, I'm like, what can I get you? And he goes, oh, I don't drink coffee. I'm like, wait, we just started a Cars and Coffee and you don't drink coffee? He goes, well, I'll have some tea. So it's Cars and Caffeine.
I don't drink coffee either.
Yeah, you don't drink coffee either. But it's wheels and waffles. I don't know what we can really call it. And now that we're in phase 2 here in the local area and the weather's going to get a little better, we can probably start doing the outdoor meetings again.
Yeah. We could have Tires and Toffee.
Tires and Toffee. There you go. But we do have it at Jake's Pickup, as where we typically meet, which Jake was our first happy birthday person. And I think we're going to have another birthday wish coming in. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, It's the Elliman family.
Hey!
Oh. Hey guys,
Hello from the road.
where are you guys heading?
We're heading back to Washington.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be
On
good
our
to
way.
have you
We'll be
back.
on the island soon tonight. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, I don't see your son in the back seat. Is he laying down, or did you forget him?
No, he's back there.
Oh, there it is.
And you guys have
And a skateboard.
and you guys have a new automotive edition as well in your lives, I think.
Oh,
Do they have a new-
Yeah, John's got all the good stories.
You got
Yeah.
a new car, John?
Oh,
We are we're in where are we? Near California state border, so we're getting another 5 miles and we'll be in Oregon.
okay. Be careful crossing over because the speed limit changes about 40 miles an hour when you're in Oregon.
And you can't pump your own
That's what they
gas.
say anyway.
Yeah, and don't
It's
do
just a
what I do. I
recommended
got
speed, though, isn't it? Just recommended.
It's
Yeah,
a
there you go.
suggestion.
and you're right. They won't let you pump gas in Oregon. We're still not quite sure why that law stands up, but they still don't let you pump gas in
dig
Oregon.
it. I love it. You don't have to get out of the car. You got all the time in the world to, go to the bathroom, get a snack. It's fabulous.
There you go. And it must be sunny because you're both wearing sunglasses, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Northern California. As soon as they cross over to the Pacific Northwest, the sunglasses come off.
Yeah,
That's
it gets
true.
gray, like
Yeah, just
immediately.
going forward, you'll see the clouds.
Yeah, straight ahead, clouds.
Oh, look at that.
There you go. Yep, you're driving right into it.
Well, safe
Yeah,
travels,
we
and thank you for checking in, and happy birthday to you guys as well. In the next 12 months.
Thanks, guys.
See you
Have a
guys.
good
See ya.
show.
Have a good show. Thank you. All right. Well, we're getting people coming in, which is fun. If you want to join us, all you have to do is click on the link in the comments. It looks like this. It says StreamYard.com/ a bunch of weird numbers. Now, if we start doing guests on a regular basis, what we do on the other show that I do Mondays and Fridays is we have an actual domain that we forward to that weird link. So we could just say like beonclutch.com or something.
There you go.
Yes, there you go. So donuts in the parking lot at Jake's. We could actually have donuts and then do donuts.
We could do both. Although we don't recommend donuts on a general basis.
That is true.
The spinning donuts, the Jake donuts, absolutely we recommend those.
Oh,
At least on a daily basis. But the spinning donut burnouts, that kind of stuff, we don't recommend them. I would rather have Jake's Donuts on a regular basis than spin donuts in the parking lot. But nevertheless, donut spinning is a lot of fun, I have to admit.
and so is taffy pulling. So you can do your taffy and tires and taffy, or dogs and donuts.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll come up with a new name of it, because cars and coffee's become kind of a generic term now.
That's true. It has. And you just reminded me, about 3 or 4 days ago, got an interesting email from a friend of mine. And he was curious about the next series of automotive engineering innovations that are coming to over the next decade. And, with the automotive technology, we usually see kind of a lull at the beginning of the decade. And then as we move towards the rest of the decade, things really start to pick up. So he was asking which innovations in automotive engineering do you think are going to be coming? And number one, top of my list, was the conversion of lithium batteries for electric cars to solid state type batteries. So the lithium ion battery, which has been essentially the standard of batteries for pretty much every electronic appliance or device, has worked its way into the automobile. And the problem with those batteries is that while they do have a good life and they do work very well, they are not an infinite resource on this planet. And so we are going to have to figure out a better way, a more efficient way to get battery technology evolved. And this is going to be very interesting because most of the car companies are converting their lineup from fuel burning to electric or battery powered vehicles. And we have never in the large scale automotive industry made a power source changeover in the history of the majority of automobile manufacturing, because in 1910, when volume manufacturing essentially began, we were building petrochemical burning automobiles. And even though fuels have sort of been refined a little bit more over the years, we're still burning the same type of refined petrochemical fuel in our contemporary automobiles. So to execute a mass changeover to electric powered vehicles has never been done in the auto industry. So we're going to go through a series of a lot of changes. And I think that has to be the number one engineering marvel of the next decade. And that will be the conversion from lithium batteries to solid state batteries. It might take a decade to figure that out and get it to work. But over the course of the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see substantial changes in the electric car industry.
So lithium is obviously a finite source. We're going to run out of lithium at some point, I would guess.
But and more importantly, we're going to cause a lot of damage to our environment obtaining lithium. And then we have the added problem of what you do with the spent batteries of former lithium charge, because there's only so much recycling that you can do with those. So that's a problem. You can mine for lithium in lots of places on the planet, but it is very invasive, extremely expensive. And the sources right now for lithium, the known sources, do not bode well for long-term use.
Now, I'm guessing the electric car battery of 50 years from now will be something that doesn't even exist today. Would you say that's probably true?
You are absolutely right. There are prototypical batteries that exist today that have tremendous promise. But the biggest challenge with prototypical energy sources is volume. So to make something that works in, let's say, 5 or 10 test examples, that can be successful. There are lots of successful alternate energy source systems that are out there now. But the challenge is to take those alternate energy sources or alternate battery powered packs, so to speak, and convert them to volume usability for hundreds of thousands of vehicles at a cost-effective way. That's the big challenge.
It'll be a bunch of hamsters on a wheel eventually.
It could be, and if you said, for example, that hamsters were the answer, that could certainly work. But eventually, you'd have the problem where you'd run out of hamsters, because again, the idea of volumizing and hamsters for transport purposes is really challenging. So anything has the problem where you say, well, we're gonna use millions of these, and we're gonna get enough volume to where the price comes down. That's a hard thing to do with alternate energy sources.
Yeah. So there's the electric info. Now back to your birthday. Adam Jones says happy birthday to the car guru extraordinaire, Raffi.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the good birthday wishes.
And by Adam Jones, a Clutchy Award winner.
Yes, that's right.
As is Jake and Ray Pepper.
Whom we owe them homoculators, don't we?
Yes. Well, I figure by the April 1st edition, when we talk about the homoculator, we'll make sure that we have them delivered by then.
There you
homoculator go. on a platform.
Yes.
Now, going back, since it is your birthday weekend, tomorrow's your actual birthday. The first car you ever had, I know you've told the story in the Cars and Coffee, the first car you owned, that was yours, not the parents' car.
Right.
You 100% got. What was that car? Or what were those cars, I guess?
It's an interesting story. The first car I ever personally owned and was a car I purchased in 1973 when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And it was for sale in the LA Times Classified. And I don't know why, but I was always interested in looking at old car ads, even as a kid. And the car was a little Italian sports car, the 1953 Giaur, Giaur. And I convinced my dad to call the phone number in the ad, and we called up, and I listened on the other end, and we agreed to come up and look at the car. And we hopped in my dad's Volkswagen van, and we drove for a little over 300 miles all the way up to Northern California. And the minute I saw that cute little red car, I had to have it. He was asking $1,500. I don't think we even bargained. And at the time I had, some paper route money and grandma money in the bank and a little bit of saved dollars here and there. But it wasn't nearly that much. And I just figured, well, maybe dad will cover the difference. And sure enough, he did. And so we bought the car, came on a trailer, put all the spare parts in the back of the Volkswagen and hooked it up to the trailer hitch and drove it home. And now that's an early series one. If you keep scrolling down, you're on the website.
I'm on the page. There's a picture of you with your car.
Yeah, there's my car right there. You're on at Sederini.com. You're in the Giaur section. And that's the car there. I took the car to Pebble Beach. That is Chalmers Hall driving the car in an early series race. That is me.
Look at that mustache.
Hey, it was 1981. That was the first engine I rebuilt. I was 19, I think, at the time, and got the car sort of fully restored at that time, and it was a blast to drive. It's a small car. It's a 750cc 4-cylinder overhead cam engine, but it's small, lightweight, and even though two people can fit inside the car, you really got to be good friends because you're literally shoulder to shoulder. But I owned that car for 36 years.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun. But that was my first car. That's the first car I ever bought, and kept it for many years, restored it twice, took it to Pebble Beach, took it to Concorso Italiano, got the Judge's Choice Award at the Palo Alto Concours.
Wow.
Fabulous car. And I sold it to one of my very best friends in Greece. And years after I sold it to him, my family flew out to Greece, and he had purchased a Bandini, and the two of us drove in each of our cars down the Aegean coast and had a fabulous day driving two little red cars in Europe.
Well, there you go. So it lives in Greece now.
It does live in Greece, and he says
all cars really live in Greece, if you think about it.
If you think about it. Yeah, just a wonderful little car. But that was my first car.
Now, how long from your first car at 11 until you got your second car?
I think I got my second car at either 12 or 13, and then they just started piling up. Once I knew that I could buy a car I bought Studebakers for $35. I bought Chryslers for $500. One of our neighbors, I was doing yard work at the house and noticed that the garage door was sort of halfway open. And I asked the woman if she wanted me to do any cleaning up in the garage. And she opened the door, and there was a Porsche 356 sunroof coupe car sitting on 4 flat tires. And I asked her if that was for sale, and we worked out a $500 deal. And so they just kept coming. And sometimes I would buy them, bring them home, do a little bit of work on them, and somebody would drive by the house and see it there and ask whether or not I would want to sell it. And I could sell it within a matter of a week or 2 weeks, or I would drive them over to the local swap meet. And the goal was to drive one there, sell the one I had, and then buy another one to drive home. Sometimes when they had them on the weekends, if my car didn't sell, I'd drive off and sleep in the car in the nearby parking lot, and then drive back in the next day, Sunday morning. And then, but and back then you had a little, like white, like the kind that you used to paint on the signs. So we'd paint on the window, for sale 1900, and then you take out a little razor blade, scrape off 1900, 1750, and on the next day.
I used to use white shoe polish.
White shoe polish, yeah.
I used to use that on the windows when I was putting cars on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Bob Towery says, I believe happy birthday in Armenian, maybe? Is that what that is?
Look at that. He is correct. That is happy birthday in Armenian. Shnora Galim, which is thank you in Armenian. Thank you, Bob.
He's multilingual. Eric Schemer asks, what car did you sell that you wish you still owned?
That's a really good question.
There's a lot of them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there are a lot. I've been very fortunate. I've owned a lot of really unusual and interesting cars. Periodically, I miss my 64 Avanti because it was such a great driving car. 69 Boss 302, which I owned for 3 years, bought with the intention of just driving and enjoying it. And slowly, the values went up on them. And when I sold it, I used it to help pay for my education when I went to Art Center to study car design. But I think the one that I miss the most, believe it or not, is because my wife continues to remind me how much fun we had driving our 69 Barracuda convertible. And that car was it was such a great, simple, easy to use, enjoyable car, yellow with a black top. And great story. I actually purchased it from a young lady who needed to sell the car because she was moving to New York to work on a movie. And that was the actress Marissa Tomei.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to know her when I left a note on the windshield of her car, and she called me back and said, yeah, the car's for sale. I got to move to New York. So I met her in the car at that time, and she seemed vaguely familiar because she had been on television for a couple of shows with, at that time, the actress Lisa Bonet. And so as I got to know her, I figured out who she was, and we worked out a deal on the car. But I saw her a couple of times after that, and then quite a few, about a year later, saw her again and told her the car was doing great and everything was fine. And by then she'd become rather famous from the movie My Cousin Vinny, which she won an Oscar for. So that car was a fantastic car, great driving car. And my wife misses it because it was such an easy car to use. Basic V8, put the top down, drive off you go. And we had a lot of fun adventures in that Barracuda convertible.
Beautiful. Is this picture anything close to it?
That's pretty close to it. That looks like it's a 383 or a 340 with the special side stripe.
That's a 340.
So a 340 convertible is a rare one. That is a 1969. And if you got one with the 340 engine, it would probably be the 340S. And that's a very rare car by number. They did not make many of them. But you can get a great 67, 68, or 69 Barracuda convertible. You can get a great one for about 20 grand. And that's a 69. That's close to what ours looked like. Ours was a 318 convertible. A lot of fun. So I missed that because it's the one my wife reminisces about quite a bit. But if I could only have one car back that I owned, enjoyed, and just had a lot of fun driving, it would be the 1970 Dodge Supercharger, which was the two-seat roadster that was, Dodge only built one of them. And it was such an unusual car, very, very simple, basic Chrysler 440 V8 but the bodywork on it was just shocking. 2-seater, huge car with the aerodynamic nose. There it is.
And that's actually you. Like, it's funny. You Google this car, and the first picture is actually you driving the car.
That is me driving the car. And my friend Dean Syracuse, who is a well-known automobile photographer, took that photo. And that was a tremendous amount of fun driving that car. And, you know, this was a car that I owned for 15, 16 years. And even the person who bought it from me years later told me that every time he takes the car to a show, people ask, "Hey, where's Raffi?" And he says, "It's still your car, no matter how long I'll own this car." But Dodge only built one. It was a show car for the 69 and the 70 show season. And a lot of eyeball in that car and a lot of fun. Every time I drove that car, you couldn't drive it without a smile on your face.
So this picture looks like it's from March of 1990. Is that what it says?
That's about right. I owned that car until, I'm going to say, I think 97, maybe 98. I bought it in 83 and sold it in 98, maybe maybe late 98.
See, I look at some of the people that have, 300-400 cars like Jay Leno, and they never get rid of cars. I think your stories are better because it's the car and gone in and out of your life. I think there's more stories because you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whereas, collectors just have a beginning and a middle. And there's the car sitting there.
That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way, Dan, but I think you're right. There's a lot that you can do in a car like this. And then when you're done with it, it kind of moves on and it gets another life with another collector. Rob mentions in the comments, no helmets. And believe it or not, we did drive with helmets once. My wife and I, we had a long drive from Kirkland, Washington. We drove up to Canada for a Chrysler car show, and we brought this car with us. And we wore helmets because it all that wind and everything for driving for several miles. It was a good idea. But when we pulled into the border crossing to Canada, we had our passports and papers and everything. But the guy at the tree, he goes, "Oh, no, you pull over here." And so we pulled over and they had to search the car, and there's no trunk in that car, but there's a large backspace. So we moved the seats forward. I had to remove the rear bulkhead so that they could look in the back and shine a light in there and make sure that we weren't, bringing contraband into Canada. God forbid we'd be bringing in extra potatoes for contraband poutine.
Glenn Munger says, "Happy birthday." He was on for a moment and he just wrote his name, and then he just texted and said, he also texted you to say happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Glenn. And speaking of collectors that have some fascinating stories, Glenn is one of those guys.
But he also sells some cars too. He's got a lot of his stories have endings too.
Yeah. And
where did it end up? Who had it next?
Yeah. And a lot of those stories, that it actually adds to, like when I sold my Jower and it went to Greece, the second chapter of my ownership started then. And that's happened with a lot of cars. And sometimes you even hear about your former car being sold again, and it comes around and they contact you, and it's a lot of fun. And the cars are really a big part of the experience for me as a designer and historian and automotive journalist. But what it comes down to is I really like the stories. I like meeting the people and exchanging ideas about certain things. And Dan's just pulled up a picture of my 1983 Pegaso, and this one I still have today. This
is in your garage. I've seen it in person.
My garage. This one is this photo is taken at the Peterson Museum, where it was on exhibit for a show on fiberglass cars and fiberglass vehicles built in Southern California. And so this was a car that I designed and built in the late 70s and early 80s, and had a lot of fun building this car. building your own car is enormously time consuming and very, very frustrating and extremely expensive. I don't recommend it, but if you're absolutely ridiculously dedicated and passionate about accomplishing something like this, it is possible to do. And it's much easier to do these days than it was back in the early 80s, because there was no internet. If you needed parts, you literally had to get out the phone book and get and call up people and write letters and wait weeks to get responses. But it's wonderful to see these things when they're finished, completed, take them to shows, have fun with them, and again, meet a lot of really interesting people.
Richard's asked, how many of those Pegasos were built? Answer.
That's an excellent question, Richard. So of this series Pegaso, which we called the Pegaso American, the one I owned was prototype number 1. There was a pre-prototype, which was built on a Porsche 914 chassis that had a Buick aluminum V8 engine, and that was the test bed car. That one never received a body, though we did use that one for attachment points. So that was a pre-prototype. This is car number 1. Car number 2 was built, which was not fully completed, but it was reconfigured as a front engine car with a longer wheelbase. And then a car number 3 was built, which was supposed to be a roadster of the longer wheelbase car, but that car was also not completed. So I think there might be leftover, the long wheelbase car might still be in existence, though I've never seen or heard of it since. As far as I know, this is the only one. Pegaso built cars in Spain in the early 50s, and anywhere between 83 to 88 cars were built in Spain, including the 1953 Pegaso Thrill, which was the 53 Paris Auto Show car, which I also owned for somewhere between 15 and 17 years. I forget the exact year, and won first prize at Pebble Beach with that car.
But as far as this particular model built by you, this is the only full, actual 100% working model version. That is the only existing completed car. And as far as I can tell, although I did make some modifications to it over the years, that's an original paint, original interior car. I've never made any substantial modifications to it. And one of my dreams is to maybe someday take that car to Pebble Beach, which would make me, I think, the only person in Pebble Beach exhibit history to be both the designer, the owner, the original owner, and builder of a one-off car to be exhibited at Pebble Beach. And a judge.
And a judge.
You could judge your own category.
Yeah, I could judge. I'll give myself first prize.
A couple of quick happy birthdays. We have John Elliman, who's we already had him live on the show, but he sent you one via Facebook. And Janice, happy birthday from Minosian.
Thank you, Janice.
Glenn did get on, and he said happiest of birthdays. Tried to call in, but can't seem to figure it out. If you do want to try to call in, all you really need to do, you click on the link in there, be a live guest. It looks like that. It says streamyard.com/blah, blah, blah, blah. If you have Facebook on, you would want to turn it off so we don't get the feedback. If your phone, it's usually the easiest. You do have to open it in Safari. It's super easy. Just ask to access your microphone, access your camera, and bing, bang, boom. Now, the first time you showed me this picture is when we were doing the radio show in Seattle. And I was like, what's that car behind you? The yellow car. And that's how I found out the story of the Dale, which is
the car behind me is the Dale prototype, the only car ever completed in the Dale fiasco, which is in and of itself a unbelievable story of a person that was promoting this car at a time when the auto industry was struggling, and this was in the early 70s, and this car was purported to be a phenomenal miles per gallon car that could get up to 70 miles per gallon. And the promoter put this car out, and he was very effective at promoting. He got money from a lot of people. People invested in it. He built the prototype, and it was unfortunately just a sort of a go-kart quickly put together chassis with a 5 horsepower engine, but he was able to get in and drive it and take it places, get out of the car and show people and take their money. Well, it was a huge, huge scam. And the way the promoter had done it, and this was where it gets interesting, is the promoter was Liz Carmichael. But Liz Carmichael, which everybody thought, well, this is great, a woman who's promoting the car, ended up—
Single mom with 5 kids was the story.
Yeah. And she ended up being a man, just dressed up to be a woman, to try and elicit sympathy and elicit attention and get all that attention that was necessary for her to raise the money.
And her male counterpart, or her as a man, I forgot the name. I just watched the story, which Bob brings up. It's called The Lady in the Dale on HBO.
Yeah.
Now there's a whole movie about it.
Yeah.
Was a counterfeiter, and had broken out of jail and was on the lam. And so the story's pretty interesting, and it's more of a transgender story than a scam story when you watch the movie. But when you kind of listen to how he scammed people and how he did things, you kind of wonder what the real relationship was. But it's a great movie if you're interested in the story of the Dale. And when Raffi first told me, I'm like, this would be a great movie. And here we are 5 years later, and it's a movie on HBO that we didn't make.
Well,
but there's also a TV show on Motor Trend called Seduced by Speed.
Yeah.
And there's a whole about the Dale as well.
Yeah, and make no mistake, the Dale was a scam, absolutely 100% a scam. And Liz Carmichael, if you can say it this way, did a great job of scamming people, because she had a like any good con artist, she had charisma, and she had she had that kind of draw that caused people to listen. And she presented the car with a very effective backstory. I believe the claim was that her deceased husband had worked for NASA and had developed some secret fuels or secret ideas for cars, and these were not being used by the auto industry, and she was going to take her deceased husband's ideas and turn them into an automobile that would change the world, and that would help pay for her kids' expenses. And here's a good picture of her. That's her, and she's sitting with the Dale, and it's all a fraud. It's a lie. But she hired some good people to develop the car, build the prototype, but it was all just to take your money. And she did. I don't remember the dollar amount, but I believe the amount that she ended up embezzling or taking from people was in excess of $1 million, including, I believe, Johnny Carson, who had her on the TV show. And
well, I know she was on the car was a prize on The Price is Right, so it got national attention that way. Yeah. I think it was in the $13-14 million range.
Oh, was it that high?
I think it was, because it was 20th Century Motors. She came up with a brand name. The car was going to do 70 miles per gallon, which, of course, a lawnmower engine probably would get 70 miles a gallon going 2 miles an hour. And it was all during the gas crisis. And the movie, I highly recommend it. It really is an interesting movie, and her daughter's in it. And it does give a good look into the family life. Like, they were always on the run, and they would always be leaving when people would find them. Yeah. And her wife was still with them. Like, when this was all going on, he was still married to his wife, but he made the story up that his husband had died, and that he was a single mom with 5 kids. Meanwhile, he and his wife were raising the kids.
Yeah, and
so
this was back when these days it would be extremely difficult to get away with something like this, because people can back check on you within a matter of hours. And unless you've done a really good job of scrubbing your past, it's very hard to do something like this to this level of scam. And you said $13 million. Wow.
I think I'd have to go back and see the exact number. I remember it being way more than $1 million for sure.
That's
it was up there for the early 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
Bob Conley, it is a 4-part series on HBO. And then if you want to watch a shortened version of it, Motor Trend, the app Motor Trend TV, and also on your local network, Motor Trend, they have a show called Seduced by Speed, and they cover the first episode is the Dale, then they do the DeLorean, they do the Bricklin. I think there's about 6 episodes, and it's all about people and how they were seduced by speed and how they did things that might not have been conventional.
Yeah,
to get their car going.
And you know, with the car industry, especially with young, energetic entrepreneurs, it is a challenging industry. It's so competitive, not just to build a car, but nobody sets out to build just a car. It has to be the fastest car, the most exotic car, the best fuel economy car, whatever it is. Nobody sets out to just build an average car. And so because of that, you set the bar so high that you have to achieve not only your objectives, but you have to achieve the objectives that the public are going to judge you by. And that's what makes it so hard to be an independent automobile manufacturer when you see failed companies like Jerry Weigert and his Vector, Malcolm Bricklin and the Bricklin, Preston Tucker with the Tucker. There are very, very few successful companies in the automotive world after the Second World War because of the high level of competitiveness and challenge to build an unusual automobile. Tesla is probably the only new company other than Shelby Motors or Shelby American that has survived for longer than a decade. And it looks like Tesla will survive even longer into the future, but they do have some challenges themselves because they have to keep raising their bar. They cannot just rest on what they've done because other major manufacturers are building luxury electric cars now and with matched quality and features.
Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you look at most of the failures post-World War II, Bricklin, DeLorean, Tucker, don't name a car after yourself. I mean, the Dale was named after a guy named Dale, but then Liz Carmichael, who worked for one of those invention companies, where, do you have an invention? Call us. We'll help you get Invention Submission Corporation or whatever it is. That's who she worked for. And this guy submitted the Dale, and she basically said, "Oh, I like this." And so she went off and became, the marketing behind it. But yeah, I mean, if Tesla was called the Musk, no one would buy that car. Yeah,
you're probably right. And the other thing that usually kills automobile companies is the desperation. What happens is you get so eager, so anxious, and a good example is Fisker. Fisker built a car called the Karma, and before that, there were a couple other cars, and they had some very, very big challenges. But it's a very, very difficult business, and the egos, the market considerations, the amount of money. We frequently say, if you want to make $20 million in the automobile industry, start with 40 million.
Yeah, and what's funny is, and Bob says he would buy a Raffi. But would you buy a Manassian? I think that it's also the ego is when your name's on the car.
Yeah.
Like if the car fails, you fail. Whereas Tesla, Elon didn't even start Tesla, but it's named after Nikola Tesla. So named after someone else.
Right.
If Tesla fails, Elon Musk still has SpaceX and all his other companies.
Sure.
But he expects your car to be a 5-wheel car, by the way.
There you go.
One more thing before we get to old school.
Yeah.
Eric does have a good question here. What's a reasonably priced birthday gift to buy a car collector?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Well, look, there are lots of answers to that. The easiest one is a really good book. There are lots of good automotive books out there. You can get, depending on their interest, if they have muscle cars, there's some great muscle car books that you can get. lots of different types of anthologies or sort of series of books that you can get. A magazine subscription used to be one of the best things to get, Car Guy. They're not out there as much as they used to be, but there are still some very good quality magazines. Octane magazine is a great one to get. Several other publications. Another thing to get, and Dan mentioned this, is get a subscription to one of the automotive channels like Motor Trend or any of the ones that are out there. Those are a lot of fun. They're not expensive.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi just totally disappeared for a second.
So those are fun to do. If you got a little bit more money you want to spend and they're working on a restoration of a car, you can find out what they're in the midst of. And if they haven't yet bought that dream stainless steel exhaust system that they want, you can either buy that for them. One of my friends put together a hidden fundraiser, a GoFundMe for a high-end paint job for this particular car that his friend was restoring. And he was going to do a lower-end paint job, and the difference in the money was made up through a GoFundMe campaign. And it was very comedic the way the guy put it together. And the people that donated got T-shirts that said, "I helped paint my friend's car," and things like that. So it depends. You can be creative with some of that stuff. Anything for the garage is always fun. A big wall clock is a nice thing. Battery-powered wall clock with a car theme is great to put in the garage. All sorts of things.
I did freeze for a moment. I might have missed part of what you said, and luckily the show kept going even though I had frozen. But Automodello, I remember this as being one of our sponsors of the old show. Yeah. Is this a good gift for a car collector? A mini car?
Absolutely. A scale model car or die-cast model car. It's an excellent gift. Some of these can be purchased for $25 to $40. The one that's currently on the screen is the Dan Gurney's Eagle. That's a $1,500 model. Wow. So some of them are $200, $300 models, depending on the level of accuracy and precision put into the models. I worked as the design director for Franklin Mint for 5 years, and then their primary consultant for another 10 years. And Franklin Mint models are fantastic detail. The work from Automodello is also fantastic detail, but fair disclosure, I am the design director for Automodello. So all of the model work, the sculpting and scale work done there is done by me and has been for the past 10 years. So another great, thank you for bringing that up, Dan, another great gift for a car collector is a scale model car.
And there's a Franklin Mint Mustang that you might have worked on.
I did work on that. In fact, I worked directly with Carroll Shelby, had a great day with Shelby when I showed him the prototype for that car. And we spent a lot of time reviewing it, going over the details, and Carroll Shelby took me to dinner.
Wow.
And I say it that way because we went to dinner. He took me to this great Italian restaurant in LA. And when we finished dinner, I said, "Look, I'm on the company clock here. Let me buy you dinner." He goes, No. He says, "I'm buying dinner. That way you can tell people that Carroll Shelby bought you dinner." And he said, it's no big deal if you buy Carroll Shelby dinner, but I'm buying you dinner. I said, okay, I like that.
Shelby would be one of the examples too, where the car company was named after him, but it also is not as large a scale like a Tesla. I mean, there aren't a million Shelbys out there.
Well, and one thing to remember is that Carroll Shelby built his cars from existing cars. He started out with the Ace and worked with the British car company, brought those cars over here and installed the engines. And same, excuse me, same thing with the Mustang. He got complete white fastback Mustangs from Ford delivered to his Venice factory, where he added, I think, it's either 11 or 13 special parts to the first series of 289 Hypo fastback Mustangs and made the Shelby.
Well, there you go. I think, and Adam Jones mentions name drop. In our other show, we have a name drop feature, but we're not gonna cross promote the name drop feature here. But yes, you do in fact have rightfully. I mean, my name drops are ridiculous. Like, oh, I saw so and so at Whole Foods once, and then oh, that's a name drop. You actually bought dinner for Carol Shelby. Kevin Bernstein says happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Good to see you, Kevin, or hear from you.
Yeah.
While we're going to do old school now, and if you do want to jump in before we end the show after old school, there is a link in all the comment sections. It looks like that. It says StreamYard.com and a bunch of letters and numbers. If you click on that, it'll walk you through. You can actually come on the show and say hello to Raffi if you'd like. But if not, that is also okay, as now we do our favorite thing. It's time to go old school.
All right. Today on Old School is the birthday edition for me. And so to do old school, I decided I would go to my actual birth year, 1962. That's right. I'm 59 years old as of tomorrow. And so for 1962, I picked the ultimate car in the world, no question, old school, the Ferrari Gto. And the reason I picked the Ferrari Gto, well, let's just say, first off, it's the most magnificent automobile ever built. Now, there might be more beautiful cars. Dan, you've got one pulled up here that is the later series body style. Please find the 1962 GTO.
That's what that says this is.
In 1962, Ferrari built.
Is this not a 250 GTO?
That is a 250 GTO with a different body style, though.
Oh, this is the one that sold for $48.4 million.
Right. And the current price for a Series 1 Ferrari GTO is about $70 million. And those are the most desirable of the series. They were, first off, in 1962, Ferrari built the Series 1 in 62 and 63. And by 64, they had made changes to the car. So it ran for only 2 years, inordinately expensive. Consider that their price was $18,000 in 1962. This was the price essentially of many homes in America. The average American citizen was making about $4,000 a year. So the Ferrari GTO was effectively a 4 to 5 times your annual salary automobile to purchase, if you could purchase it, because Enzo Ferrari had to approve your purchase of his car. So in 1962, an $18,000 car today is worth $70 million. And the reason why is because they only made 36 of these cars. And they are, for all intents and purposes, the last of the amazing front-engine 12-cylinder Ferrari. This car was built sort of as the last stage of amazing front-engine race cars, because by 1964, mid-engine race cars were starting to change automotive engineering. And by 65, 66, that equation had substantially changed. But the GTO was considered amongst all automobile collectors as the ultimate Ferrari, and for many people, the ultimate sports car. They are tremendous performance cars. They don't have enormous amounts of horsepower. I think they might be 350 horsepower, but the design, the layout, the overall feel of that car, the balance of it, just magnificent automobile, gorgeous bodywork, all aluminum, handmade bodies. Scaglietti did the coachwork on these cars. GTO, by the way, is Italian.
Gas, tires, and oil.
Yes, that's exactly. Gran Turismo Omologato, which is the Italian for the Gran Turismo homologation, which required cars to be built that could be driven on the street, but also driven as performance race cars. Today, these cars, of course, when one does change hands, and it's very rare that they do, I believe the last one changed hands for $70 million. One sold at auction some years ago for $52 million, maybe $54 million. In any case, the 1962 Ferrari GTO is about as magnificent as it can get.
And It is a gorgeous car.
Oh,
Like I'm just staring at the cutaway picture here, just to kind of see like how far back you're really sitting, and you're almost on the rear wheels.
it's, everything about the car is amazing. The technology at the time was, right up there with everything that was out in the world, and everything about this car with the covered headlights, the low hood, the undulating fenders, the fastback rear, the camback tail, the Borani wire wheels, the intakes, scoops and vents, and it just goes on and on. The steering wheel, the Nardi steering wheel surrounding the speedometer, tachometer, everything about the car, the beautifully arched windscreen. It just comes together, and everything is just this quintessential vision of what a powerful and beautiful sports car should be.
Awesome. And that is our old school for this very special birthday edition of the Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan, the Happy Birthday Raffi show. Now, Richard Barron says that he once saw you at a Cars and Coffee in another era.
Really?
I would be curious to know what that story's about. Were you at a Cars and Coffee in California, maybe?
It could
back
be.
in the day.
I've been at a lot of Cars and Coffees in California because I grew up down there, and I know Richard worked down there. Richard was the art director for Road and Track magazine, and talk about somebody who knows a lot about cars.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a library full of information on all kinds of cars, Porsches, Lotus. Richard knows quite a bit about them. But now he says pre-COVID.
Oh, so he saw you in another era, meaning here in Cars and Coffee. That was the other era, the pre-COVID era.
Yeah, the pre-COVID era. Yeah, it's hard to even imagine that someday we will be back on a field, shoulder to shoulder, maybe even maskless, who knows, all vaccinated and enjoying our cars out in the real world rather than the virtual world.
Yeah, and it is great that we do have the ability to do shows like this, and also we have our weekly Zoom Cars and Coffee meeting, where we kind of talk, and we have a very interesting and eclectic group of auto enthusiasts from many different backgrounds, but we all have the one thing we all love, and that is, of course, Raffi. I mean, cars.
Well, I do like cars, and I've been very fortunate. I've had a very, very interesting life. I've met a lot of really good people through cars, and people ask me, well, what made you decide you wanted to be in cars and spend so much time around them? And the truth is, for the most part, when I meet people around cars, they're happy. They're having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. Cars are really unique because, especially the old cars, you can journey back in time with an old car. You can drive it during the day, and you can also sort of move to the future with an automobile. Wherever you are in a car, it's always taking you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's effectively the closest thing I can think of to a time machine. And when you think back about people, we're kind of the same way. If I sit down and talk with people, we'll talk about the past. We'll maybe have lunch in our present, and hopefully we'll have a chance to even interact in the future. And in that regard, I think that kind of experience is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And my final question for you, do you have a list of every car you've ever owned?
I do have a list of every car I ever owned. I have a file. I think it's over 100. I think it maybe 100 and change at this point. But it has every car I've ever owned. Some of those files have pictures, and some I kept the VIN numbers. But yeah, every car I've ever owned.
I'm thinking of doing a list myself. I don't know if I count my 1979 Bonneville that was my mom's, or the 81 Malibu that was my mom's. Those are the first two cars I drove.
There you go.
But I think I'd probably start with the 72 Olds Cutlass with the Rocket 350 engine in it that I bought for $100 when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So I might make my list too. That might be fun. Although mine's probably in the 40s.
That's a lot of cars still.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up to my age. That's the goal.
That's
You've already surpassed your age. You're going to double your age pretty soon.
That's a good goal. I'll double my age.
Yes. All right. Well, that's the show for this week. If you're listening to the podcast, boy, did you miss a lot on the live show. You should tune in every Saturday on Facebook and YouTube. I think Twitter's going away. I think they're going to stop doing streaming on Twitter, but very few people watch there anyway. But you can watch us live there every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you're watching us live, of course, right now, thank you. Again, happy birthday, Raffi. Tomorrow, a young 59.
59.
His first quarantine birthday. Hopefully we won't have any more quarantine birthdays in the next few months. We'll be able to have actual birthdays again.
That would be nice.
Next year at least.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. If you have any questions during the week, send me an email, dan@danrosenberg.com, and we'll answer your car buying, selling, trading, leasing questions right here on Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for all the birthday wishes.
Happy birthday.